This week, we're looking at what happens when autistic people are victims of crime. And in this video, we focus on the idea of hate crime. So Jill, can you start off by telling us how is hate crime defined?
So definitions of hate crime depend a little bit on where you live, in that different countries will have slightly different definitions. But it's a crime where either the victim themselves or somebody else thinks that the crime has been carried out because of prejudice or hostility that's based on the person's disability or the person's race or their religion or their sexual orientation or their gender identity. So if a crime's carried out and either you or somebody else think that the crime is because of those characteristics, then it's a hate crime.
And what do we know about how many autistic people experience hate crime?
So it's quite difficult to get precise figures that are just about autistic people and their experience of hate crime, because ways of reporting hate crimes might just look at disability, or sometimes the information will relate to autistic people and people with learning disabilities. And so those figures will include autistic people who also have a learning disability, but will also include people with learning disabilities who are not autistic. But we think that from some of the evidence that at least 50% of autistic adults have been bullied or harassed. And there are other studies that suggest that autistic people of all genders are much more likely to be the victims of sex crimes. And the incidents can include things like name calling or intimidating stares, but can also include physical and sexual assault. And some incidents might be one-off incidents, but other incidents it can be multiple incidents that are really occurring over quite a long and extended period of time.
So we tend to think of hate crime as something that's perpetrated by people who don't know the victim, but there's also this thing called mate crime. Can you tell us more about what that is?
Yeah, so mate crime is a particular sort of hate crime, but in that situation, the perpetrator is known to the victim. And some of our studies suggest that around half of all the hate crimes that occur against autistic people and people with learning disabilities are mate crimes. And so where the things that are happening, the things that are done, the things that are said are done by people who are known to the autistic person. I think that our responses to hate crimes, including mate crimes, can sometimes be particularly unhelpful. And so quite often people with learning disabilities and autistic people might be expected to be the one who changes their behaviour. So for example, if somebody has been the victim of a hate crime or mate crime in their local community, they might be advised to avoid certain places or to avoid certain people or to avoid going out at certain times. And whilst that advice is absolutely about keeping the individual safe, those kinds of responses don't really address what the problem is, because of course the problem is not the autistic person or the person with a learning disability being out and about in their local community, wherever they are or whatever time of day it is or whoever it is that they're with. It's the people who are committing those crimes that are the problem.